Paris, October 16, 1793. The morning air is heavy with fog, and the streets are alive with whispers. Crowds gather, pressing shoulder to shoulder, waiting for a single woman to appear. That woman was once the most glamorous figure in Europe, clothed in silks, diamonds glistening, admired by nobles and envied by commoners. But today, she walks not into a ballroom, but toward the guillotine. Her name? Marie Antoinette, Queen of France, and in a matter of hours, she would be gone forever. This is the story of the execution of Marie Antoinette, a story not just of one queen, but of a world in revolution. It's a tale of excess, of fury, of misunderstanding, and of a woman who became the symbol of everything a suffering people believed was wrong with their country. Today, we'll step back in time and witness the fall of Marie Antoinette, from a teenage Austrian princess to France's most infamous queen, to a condemned prisoner whose last words still echo through history. So grab your seat, because this isn't just history, it's a drama, a tragedy, and perhaps even a cautionary tale for our own time.
Before we can understand Marie Antoinette's execution, we need to understand the woman herself. Who was she? How did she rise so high, and why did she fall so low? Marie Antoinette was born in 1755 in Vienna, Austria, the 15th child of Empress Maria Theresa and Emperor Francis I. Imagine growing up in the most powerful family of Central Europe, surrounded by politics, wealth, and endless rules of etiquette. From the moment she was born, Marie wasn't just a little girl, she was a political tool. That might sound cold, but in the 18th century, royal children were the chess pieces of Europe. Their marriages sealed alliances, ended wars, and strengthened empires. When Marie was just 14 years old, her destiny was decided. She would marry the future King of France, Louis Auguste, who would later become Louis XVI. This marriage was supposed to strengthen the bond between Austria and France, two great powers who had often been enemies. But here's where things start to get complicated. Marie was sent to France as a teenager, and stepping into Versailles was like stepping into another world. Imagine being a young girl suddenly thrust into the most glittering, intimidating palace on earth. Versailles wasn't just a home, it was a stage. Every action was watched, every word judged, every gesture remembered. At first, the French people were curious about their new Dauphine. She was beautiful, charming, and fashionable. But there was one problem. She and Louis XVI had trouble producing an heir. And in the cutthroat world of monarchy, that was the queen's first and most important job. For years, rumors swirled about why the royal couple wasn't having children. Was Louis impotent? Was Marie cold and uninterested? The whispers grew louder with each passing year. Finally, after 8 long years, she gave birth to her first child. But by then, the damage to her reputation had already begun. Marie tried to distract herself and the court with lavish parties, exquisite gowns, diamonds, and her personal playground, the Petit Trianon, a private estate where she played at being a shepherdess away from the stiff etiquette of Versailles. To her, it was harmless fun. To the struggling French people, it was insulting. Imagine being a peasant in 1780s France, your stomach empty, your children hungry, and hearing that your queen was dressing up in silk gowns to play at farming while real farmers were starving. This gap between image and reality would prove devastating.
France in the late 18th century was a nation on the edge.
The economy was in shambles, food prices were skyrocketing, and inequality was crushing. The nobility and clergy lived in luxury, while ordinary people paid taxes they couldn't afford. In 1789, the pressure finally exploded. The French Revolution had begun. At first, Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI tried to carry on as usual, believing the storm might pass, but it didn't. In July, the Bastille fell, a symbol that the people were done with royal oppression. The royal family was forced to move from Versailles to Paris, where they were kept under close watch. Marie Antoinette's reputation spiraled further downward. She was mocked in pamphlets, cartoons, and songs. She was accused of being wasteful, immoral, even plotting against France with her Austrian family. One phrase, though never actually spoken by her, became forever attached to her name: "Let them eat cake." It's unlikely she ever said it, but to the revolutionaries, it didn't matter. She became the villain they needed, the face of royal arrogance. The royal family tried to escape in 1791 in what became known as the Flight to Varennes. Disguised and fleeing in the night, they hoped to reach loyalist forces and rally support. But they were caught. Brought back to Paris in disgrace, it confirmed the people's suspicion. The Queen and King could not be trusted. By 1792, the revolution grew more radical. France declared war on Austria and Prussia. The monarchy was abolished, and in January 1793, Louis XVI was executed by guillotine. For Marie Antoinette, her husband's death was the beginning of the end. She was now just the widow Capet, stripped of her titles, imprisoned in the Conciliary, awaiting her own fate.
The trial of Marie Antoinette began in October 1793. It was not a trial in the modern sense. It was a performance designed to condemn her. The charges against her were staggering: draining the treasury, conspiring with enemies of France, and most shockingly, incest with her own son. That last accusation stunned even her critics. During the trial, when it was read aloud, Marie rose from her seat. With dignity, she turned not to the judges, but to the women of the audience and said, "If I have not answered, it is because nature itself refuses to reply to such a charge made against a mother. I appeal to all mothers who are here." For a moment, silence filled the courtroom. Even some of her enemies felt sympathy. But it wasn't enough. The outcome was already decided. On October 15th, after a 2-day trial, Marie Antoinette was found guilty of treason. Her punishment? Death by guillotine. The night before her execution, Marie Antoinette prepared for death. She wrote a final letter to her sister-in-law, Madame Elizabeth. In it, she expressed forgiveness, sorrow, and faith. At dawn on October 16th, she was awakened and told to dress. Gone were the silks and jewels of her youth. She wore a plain white gown. Her once elaborate hair was cut short so it wouldn't interfere with the blade. Unlike Louis XVI, who had been taken to his death in a carriage, Marie was placed on an open cart, exposed to the jeering crowds as she was paraded through Paris. Witnesses said she held her head high, her face pale but composed. The ride took hours. Imagine sitting on that cart, knowing every minute was bringing you closer to the end, with thousands of eyes fixed on you. Finally, she reached the Place de la Révolution. The guillotine stood waiting. She ascended the scaffold. In that moment, she accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot. "Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose." Those were her final words. Moments later, the blade fell, and the Queen of France was no more. Marie Antoinette's death was meant to be the end of monarchy's corruption, the triumph of liberty over tyranny. But history is never so simple. To some, she remains the symbol of extravagance and selfishness.
a queen who cared more for jewels than for her people. To others, she was a scapegoat, a woman blamed for problems she didn't create, trapped in a role she couldn't escape. Her story reminds us how powerful public perception can be. In a world of rumor, pamphlets, and caricatures, Marie Antoinette was transformed into a monster. And once that image took hold, nothing could save her. But it also forces us to ask, was she truly guilty? Or was she simply the wrong person in the wrong place at the wrong time? Her execution closed one chapter of the French Revolution, but it also set the stage for years of violence, terror, and ultimately, the rise of a new emperor, Napoleon Bonaparte.
The execution of Marie Antoinette is not just the story of one woman's downfall. It is the story of a nation, of anger, of hope, and of tragedy. It shows us how quickly the mighty can fall, and how history remembers not always the truth, but the legend. Next time you hear the name Marie Antoinette, don't just think of a careless queen and a cruel revolution. Think of a young girl torn from home, a queen trapped by duty, and a woman who met her death with dignity. Because in the end, Marie Antoinette's life was not just about excess and downfall, it was about humanity, caught in the storm of history.